We'll segue into that. We got the story from Mashable.
Oh, man.
Anti-work subreddit goes private after rough Fox News interview. Yikes, saith Mashable. I would like to introduce you to a subreddit called Anti-Work. My understanding, after some cursory research, is that the point of this forum was it was people who thought no one should have to have a job. You should be allowed to get food, shelter, and whatever given to you without doing any work. It started to grow rapidly. 1.7 million followers of this subreddit, this forum. It quickly changed, however, into a work reform, where it was like, hey, we just want rights. We want to do work, but we got to get paid better.
Sure.
Now, ultimately, I think this message is co-opted by the left, and that's what poisoned it. But here's what happens. Fox News reaches out to interview someone from the forum of 1.7 million people who don't want to work or who don't like working. And so this is what I read. Basically, they all held a poll where they said, okay, should we do this? Everyone voted. The majority said, do not go on Fox News.
Oh, boy.
One of the moderators decided to go on Fox News anyway. It was a autistic, non-binary individual, I believe, who appeared on Fox News, wouldn't look directly into the camera, and was shying away in a messy room with an inarticulate message that seemed wishy-washy, saying things like, I have to walk dogs 25 hours a week, and I shouldn't have to do that to be able to eat and survive. And I think probably that was more articulate than the person was. This caused brigading, people rushing into the subreddit, and then ultimately it shut down. Now they're saying they may come back. But what I find fascinating in this whole story, the anti-work movement, the rapid explosive spread. Fox News covered this from, only a year ago to, tens of thousands of followers to 1.7 million. When you go to the subreddit, and these are people who are outright saying, I shouldn't have to have a job. This is the mentality of the modern left. So I will first say a lot of the work reform arguments from many of these people, many of them leftist, I completely agree with. Someone takes out 20 grand in school loans. Now they owe 100 because of interest. And I'm like, okay, that I can understand is a problem.
Agreed.
If you take out a loan for 20 grand and there's some interest on it, I can recognize, you got to pay it back and you got to pay back the interest. But when it's massive, and that's for a lot of people, then I'm basically like, the system is corrupt. We got to shut that down. I can respect that. But when you come out and say things like, and I shouldn't have to do any work, I should just get stuff. I'm like, which slave, will you be, which person will you be enslaving, which group of people in order to have them do the work to make your food, because food doesn't come from nowhere. I mean, even when it grows on the trees, someone's still got to go get it for you.
Exactly. No such thing as free lunch. And every single thing you have that you didn't work for, somebody worked for without having. And sometimes that's fine because it's voluntary. Somebody gave to charity, they wanted to help you. And then sometimes that's not fine because it was forcibly taken from the person when you yourself could have been earning money. It's interesting how our conception of work has changed over the past 100 years, maybe even just the past 50 years. But people used to see their job as something that gave them meaning, and they no longer do. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And I'm not just blaming workers themselves for having this attitude. I think in many respects, the working class are not treated well. I don't think the left has done a great job representing them historically. And I think that they need people who are willing to fight for them, who actually have some level of contact with them and don't despise them and their values, which they don't right now. But ultimately, people used to conceive of their work as that which they contributed and that which they were adding. And now we have this idea that there are certain jobs that are worth doing because what is being done at those jobs is valuable. And then basically every other job is pointless and it's humiliating to have to do it. But the reality is there's dignity in all work. And yes, workers should be treated with more dignity. I agree with that completely. But the idea that, well, there are just certain jobs nobody should have to do is absurd because all of those jobs need doing. So what you should be saying is respect the people doing it. You shouldn't be saying, I shouldn't have to work to survive. It's insane.
There's a meme that I saw that I think sums up a lot of the culture war. It was my brother posted it. It said people who are unvaccinated and oppose the vaccines don't want you to get it because they're scared you could die. And the people who are vaccinated and want you to get it are scared they could die. And regardless of the vaccine opinion, I'm not asserting anything about vaccines. It's just a meme.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that there's this perspective of, oh no, I don't want you to be hurt. And the other perspective is, you better do this so I don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Right. I bring that up because, and always talk to your doctor about private medical decisions, but I bring this up in this context because what I see often from the left and like the anti-work community is, I shouldn't have to work and I should get stuff. And then my attitude is, let me make as much stuff as possible and then help others with that stuff I have.
Exactly.
It's so weird, isn't it?